In this brief tutorial, we want to talk about choosing a camera. Now, this is not a deep dive into all of the different manufacturers and models of cameras out there. There are some amazing resources online, especially on YouTube, of deep dives into different manufacturers, and so we're not going to recapitulate that here. What I want to focus on in particular are three variables that I wish I had known about prior to even beginning researching which camera to buy, and both Chris and myself want you to know about these variables so that you can do your homework more efficiently. The first variable I want to talk about is clean HDMI. This is a term I did not know when I first started researching the cameras that I was considering for my channel, and I really wish I had. What clean HDMI means in a nutshell is that the camera has the ability, has the functionality to output a signal from the camera to your computer via a cable that gives a clean version of whatever it is that is being seen through the lens, without all of the various symbols and numbers and icons that appear in the viewfinder of the camera. So if you've ever shot video with your camera, you know that there are things like sound meters, there are brackets to show autofocus, there are all of these various bells and whistles appearing in the viewfinder or the screen of cameras. What a clean HDMI capable camera does is it cleans out, it strips all of those icons away, and it sends a clean version of your video feed to your camera. Now, why would you want that? Why is that so critical? Well, if you are even remotely contemplating the possibility of using your camera for live streaming, or, and very importantly in our current Zoom era, of using your DSLR camera, or whatever camera it is, as a webcam alternative. So if you can use many DSLR cameras as a webcam that Zoom or other programs will recognize as a webcam just within the drop-down menu, but only if the camera itself has a clean HDMI out. If it doesn't, there are a variety of things that are going to happen. One is that you're going to have to invest additional funds or additional money into either software such as Ecamm Live, or in hardware such as basically these capture cards, they're called, that will clean out all of those icons and symbols for you and then allow your software, Zoom or whatever it might be, your computer in general, to recognize your external camera as a webcam. But there are now more and more and more cameras on the market that come out of the box with clean HDMI, such that without any additional software, any additional hardware, as soon as you plug it into your computer, you might have to download a driver, a free driver from a website, that your camera will immediately recognize it as a webcam. And then you can start to have incredibly clear HD quality video in your live streams and in your Zoom calls. I can't count the number of people now who, when I join a Zoom call, will start by saying, "Tom, damn, your video is amazing. What's going on there?" And I have to explain, well, I'm using an external DSLR camera that my computer recognizes as a webcam instead of the one that's just in my laptop. So when you are doing your research for all of the different variables you want to think about for your camera, try to pay attention. Does this have clean HDMI capabilities? A second issue that I wish I had known about pertains to persistent power. So ideally, you want to set up your camera, whatever camera you're using, in a permanent position in your office or whatever you're using as your studio. You want to set it and forget it. Now, we have a whole other tutorial about setting up your studio and about choosing a location, and I realize that many are not going to have the ability to set up their camera on a tripod and then never touch it again, and so keep that in mind. But if you are able to leave your camera in a pretty consistent position, either permanently or that's where you always put it up, you really want the ability not to rely on the battery of the camera, which has a short life. It may last for an hour, it may last for 45 minutes, it may last for over an hour. It depends on the manufacturer and the model and the age of the camera. But it's really scary as a video producer to worry that the camera is going to die, the battery is going to die in the middle of a take. This is especially scary or nerve-wracking if you have guests, if there's anyone else involved. And so one thing that you're going to want to pay attention to is, does the camera, or do the cameras I'm interested in, have the ability to have persistent external power, typically through something called a dummy battery. This is a battery, or this is an object that is shaped like your camera's interchangeable batteries, but that you insert into the camera. You close it off like you normally would, but then the camera itself should have a little kind of flap that you can then open, which exposes the battery chamber. And in the case of a dummy battery, will expose a small plug that then you can attach an external plug into the dummy battery that is inside your camera at this point, and then run that cable to a wall jack and plug it in. So in my camera, the one that I use for all my videos and the tutorial I'm recording right now, my camera is plugged into the wall, so I never have to worry that it is going to stop recording suddenly because the battery has run out of power. So something that I wish I had known at the time, I was fortunate, I was sort of lucky that it was possible in the case of my camera, that you want to see whether or not your camera has the ability to install a dummy battery or some other persistent power option. Barring that, you want to pay attention to which cameras have, in terms of the ratings of the camera, have the longest battery power possible. You don't want to be changing or having to change batteries a lot. And then in addition to that, something that you're going to want to invest in, if you're not able to have persistent power, is an extra set of 2 or maybe even 3 additional external batteries, and then an additional power charger for those external batteries, so that you always have a battery that is ready to go, and you can stay kind of in the flow of things as much as possible. A third factor here has to do with maximum recording length. Now, this is different than battery power. This actually pertains to how a camera handles memory and memory cards. The memory cards themselves are immense. I mean, some of these now are more kind of more footage. They can accommodate more footage than the average person in our shoes would even be able to shoot in a single day. But that doesn't mean that you can just press record on any camera and let it run for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Many cameras have a maximum recording length baked in. So the camera that I use, for example, I believe has something like a 29-minute maximum. Even if the battery is good, even if there's plenty of space on the card, it will stop at minute 29 or minute 30. Now that's okay if you're shooting tutorials of this sort. I don't talk for more than 30 minutes at a time, but there are times when I have done interviews which tend to run for longer than 30 minutes, in which I have to pause the conversation, which is kind of awkward. It ruins the mood and so forth, in order to then press record again. And that's not because the battery kicked out. It's not because the card ran out of space. It's just because of a maximum recording limit. Now, there are cameras on the market that have no recording limit. There are software upgrades or downloads for the firmware for different cameras that sometimes unlock the ability of unlimited recording. But that's something that I wish I had known to even pay attention to when doing camera research. What is the maximum recording length of the camera or cameras I have my eyes on? That's another key tip. And here's a fourth bonus tip. And this comes back to the question of interchangeable lenses and the tutorial that you just watched about the 3 different tiers of gear. Now, I have come down very strongly in the camp that even if it requires a slightly larger outlay of cash at the outset, that it is always better to invest in a camera that allows you to change lenses. It allows you to grow with the camera. It allows you to become a better and better videographer or photographer with the camera. And it allows you to upgrade the aesthetic quality of your videos without having to buy an entirely new camera set, because the lenses themselves exert an immense influence on the quality of your shots of your video. For example, when you buy a camera, a DSLR camera, typically speaking, the lens that comes with the camera, sometimes referred to as a kit lens, is typically a sort of middling, medium quality, it does the job, but it's not that great of a lens. And that's why manufacturers include it, because it's a sort of a low cost, manufactured good for them. But if you then, at the right time, when you feel like the time is right, when you have the money to do it, you could invest in another lens that will fit on your camera that will entirely, magically improve the quality of your video, especially if you're trying to get a blurry background that, so many videographers and video producers crave, especially at our sort of level of the game. That's something that can be achieved with a few $100 interchangeable lens, which is a whole lot less money than if you have a non-interchangeable point and shoot lens, camera, which cannot achieve that sort of blurry background you're looking for. If you hit that moment, you say, oh my gosh, I really do want to bring my videos up to that next level. So now I have to buy an entirely new camera setup and basically start using this point and shoot camera for other purposes. And that's a much bigger investment. That's a $1,000 investment, as opposed to, because you have to buy a new camera and new lens, as opposed to saying, let me invest in something now which can grow with me as I get better at this. So it's still possible to, minimize your investment at the early stages with a point and shoot, but I will tell you there is a great risk in that, because the time will come when you may have to, or may choose to, invest in the channel aesthetically. And so as some people say, sort of buy it nice or buy it twice is the general idea, that what you save right now might cost you later. Now, if you are going to go the route of interchangeable lenses or buying a camera with interchangeable lenses, pay attention to what the availability on the market for these interchangeable lenses are. Not every camera manufacturer and not every camera manufacturer or camera model has the same number of lenses available to it, compatible with it on the market. And so you really want to do some research and say, okay, I think I'm refining my list down to these 2 or these 3 DLSRs. Now, in addition to seeing if it has HDMI, clean HDMI out, what if it has persistent power, what the maximum recording limit is, all that stuff I just said, you also want to say how many lenses are available on the market, especially those by third-party manufacturers or vendors. That is, companies that make lenses who are not the same company as the one that produced the camera itself. You want, ideally, a camera that has a wide variety of lens manufacturers, because quite obviously that allows you to have more choice, and there's more competition in that market, which tends to drive the prices of any of those lenses to a more affordable level. So make sure, as a bonus tip, that if you winnow down your list of, I think I might invest in one of these 3 cameras, one deciding factor might be that this one has lots more lenses available for it than this one. Well, that's it for this tutorial. I'll see you in the next one.